All right, so today we're diving into this article from the Express Tribune.
Okay.
It's titled, Over 727,000 Pakistanis Left for Jobs Abroad in 2024, a 15% drop from 2023.
Interesting.
And, first glance, you might think, oh, fewer people going abroad. That means
Right.
less money coming back home.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But here's the thing. Remittances are actually way up significantly.
Really?
Yeah, so fewer people are leaving, but more money's flowing back in.
That is fascinating.
Mm.
So what?
Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher, right?
Yeah, what could explain that? I mean,
Well, that's what we're going to dig into.
okay, great.
So first, let's break down those numbers a little bit. 727,000 Pakistanis going abroad for work in 2024.
Yeah.
A 15% drop from the year before.
That's a pretty substantial decrease. So what are some of the reasons behind that decline?
Well, there are a few things to consider.
Yeah.
The global economic slowdown is definitely a factor.
Right. Some of those countries that have traditionally been big destinations for Pakistani workers.
Yeah.
They might just not have as many jobs available anymore.
And then you've got the ever-changing landscape of immigration policies.
Oh, yeah. Those can shift things pretty quickly.
Absolutely. Now, the article also touches on how this drop in emigration is being viewed within Pakistan itself.
And I imagine there's some mixed feelings about it.
Yeah, it seems like there are two very distinct perspectives emerging.
Okay, so what are they saying?
Well, one side is really concerned about what they're calling a brain drain.
Right. I mean, if you've got a lot of skilled workers leaving the country,
Yeah.
that's definitely a loss of talent.
And the article points out that 200,000 skilled workers left Pakistan in 2024.
Wow, that's a significant number.
It is, but on the other hand, there's this almost optimistic view that immigration could actually be a good thing for Pakistan.
Okay, so how does that work?
It's what they call the brain gain argument.
Okay.
The idea is that Pakistanis go abroad, gain valuable skills and experience,
Right.
and then they return home bringing all that knowledge with them.
Interesting. So it's like an investment.
Yeah, exactly. They go out, learn, and then come back and contribute to Pakistan's development.
Makes sense.
And there's a quote in the article from Sheikh Tahir Imran. He's a Pakistani expatriate living in the U.S.
Okay.
And he says that professionals often feel like they can't fully develop certain skills within Pakistan's current infrastructure.
Oh, so going abroad becomes a necessity.
Right. If
Wow.
you want to be at the forefront of certain fields, you kind of have to go where the opportunities are.
I see.
But let's not forget about those remittances.
All right.
Pakistan received a record $34.634 billion in 2024,
Wow.
which is a 31.36% increase from the previous year.
That's a lot of money flowing back into the economy.
It's huge, and the article quotes economist Usama Siddiqui,
Okay.
who says that remittances have essentially become the backbone of Pakistan's economy.
So without those remittances,
Right.
the economic situation in Pakistan could be far more precarious.
Exactly. So here's the puzzle. We've got fewer people leaving.
Yeah.
But they're sending back more money than ever before.
So why is that?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, what's changed?
Well, one possibility is that the types of jobs Pakistanis are taking abroad have shifted.
Okay, so maybe they're moving into more specialized, higher-paying fields.
Exactly.
That would make sense.
And the article even mentions how Pakistan's government might be able to capitalize on this trend.
How so?
What if they invested in training programs, really targeted programs focused on developing skills that are in high demand globally?
So almost like tailoring education and workforce development
Yes,
to meet the needs of the international job market.
that's the idea.
Yeah.
It'd be fascinating to see if that could actually work.
Yeah, it would.
But the article also brings up another country that's had some success with this kind of approach.
Which one?
India.
Ah,
And there's a quote from Sikandar Salman, a British Pakistani,
okay.
who really urges Pakistan to learn from India's example.
Interesting.
And he points out that India has millions of professionals abroad, many in prominent global positions.
Right.
He even mentions the British Prime Minister. Oh, wow.
Who is of Indian descent.
So the question is, why isn't Pakistan doing more to leverage its own diaspora?
Exactly. Is there something about the way India engages with its professionals abroad that Pakistan could learn from?
Good question. Are there specific policies or programs that have proven to be successful?
We need to find out. But what I find really interesting
Yeah.
is that this whole conversation goes beyond just economics.
Yeah.
You know?
It's about talent and opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about how Pakistan positions itself on the global stage.
Right. So instead of viewing emigration as a loss,
Yeah.
maybe it's time for Pakistan to see it as an integral part of its development strategy.
A resource to be cultivated
Yes,
and leveraged.
absolutely.
Which brings us to a crucial question.
Okay, I'm listening.
What would it take for Pakistan to create an environment where talented individuals,
Mm-hmm.
both those who have emigrated and those who remain in the country,
Right.
feel empowered to contribute to their full potential?
That's a big question. It is, because right now the reality is that many skilled professionals feel like they have to leave Pakistan to advance their careers.
It's true. We're seeing those declining immigration numbers,
Right.
yet remittances are soaring. We're
Yeah.
grappling with this brain drain.
Yeah.
But there's also this glimmer of potential for brain gain.
It's a complex and evolving situation.
It really is.
Definitely complex. But before we get into potential solutions, I think it's worth looking at some of the individual stories highlighted in this article.
Okay, let's go.
They offer some really interesting insights into the motivations and challenges faced by Pakistani immigrants.
I'm all ears.
Mhm.
So one of the stories the article shares is about this young software engineer named Aisha.
Okay.
She moved to Canada to pursue a career in AI,
Ah, interesting.
which is, a field that's still pretty nascent in Pakistan.
Yeah, I can see why she'd want to go abroad for that.
Right, she felt like she needed to go to get the experience.
That makes sense. It's like what Sheikh Tahir Imran was saying.
Yeah, about the limitations.
Yeah. Yeah, about how Pakistan's current infrastructure just might not be there yet for certain fields.
Exactly, and her story, I think, highlights a really important point. It's not always just about brain drain.
Right, it's not just about the money.
Yeah, she's not just chasing a higher salary.
She wants to learn.
She's driven by this desire to learn and grow and contribute to a field that she's really passionate about.
Right, she wants to be at the cutting edge.
Exactly. But, the article also talks about the emotional toll that immigration can take.
Oh, sure. Being away from family and friends.
Yeah, Aisha talks about the challenges of being away from her family and that feeling of being caught between two worlds.
Building a life in a new country, but still feeling tied to your homeland.
Yeah, there's this quote from her that I thought was really powerful. She says, "You build a life in a new country, but a part of you always remains tied to your homeland."
That's really well said.
Yeah, it really captures the emotional complexity that so many immigrants face.
It makes you wonder about the long-term impact on Pakistani society.
Right. What happens when a significant portion of your population has this dual identity, this feeling of being rooted in two different places?
Exactly. I mean, some would say that leads to a sense of fragmentation.
Yeah, while others see it as an opportunity for cultural exchange.
Right. It's complicated.
Definitely. But, going back to the economic side of things for a second,
Sure.
we've talked about the potential benefits of brain gain. But how do you actually make that happen?
Yeah, how do you incentivize someone like Aisha to come back to Pakistan?
Right, and share her expertise.
Exactly.
Well, that's where things get really tricky.
I bet.
The article suggests that Pakistan needs to create a more favorable environment for professionals.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Well, it could mean improving infrastructure, reducing bureaucratic hurdles, offering competitive salaries.
And maybe even fostering a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship,
Absolutely. It's about making Pakistan a more attractive place to live and work.
especially for people who have experienced life in those developed countries.
Exactly. It's a tall order. But the article does offer some potential solutions.
Like what?
Well, it talks about the need for better collaboration between the government, the private sector, and educational institutions.
Okay, so creating this kind of ecosystem.
Yeah, where talent is nurtured,
Yeah.
innovation is rewarded, and there's a clear pathway for professionals to contribute and advance their careers.
Almost like a ripple effect.
Right. If you create the right conditions, you can attract back some of those skilled professionals who have left.
And then they can mentor and train the next generation.
Exactly. Creating this virtuous cycle of knowledge transfer and skill development.
I love that idea, but there's another aspect to this that we haven't really touched on.
With that,
What about the millions of professionals who are already in Pakistan?
oh, you're right. We can't forget about them.
They're a vital part of the equation.
Absolutely. And the article does mention this briefly. It argues that Pakistan needs to do a better job of recognizing and utilizing the talent that already exists within its borders,
So not just focusing on attracting people back.
right? But also on creating opportunities for those who are already there to thrive.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense.
And that's where I think this idea of brain circulation comes in.
Brain circulation.
Yeah, it's not just about bringing people back, but about fostering this dynamic flow of knowledge and expertise,
Oh, I like that.
both within Pakistan and between Pakistan and the rest of the world.
It suggests a more fluid and interconnected approach.
Exactly where talent is valued and utilized, regardless of location.
It moves beyond those simplistic narratives of brain drain versus brain gain.
Exactly. It's about embracing the complexity of immigration in all its forms.
It's about recognizing that immigration doesn't have to be a zero-sum game.
Right. It can be a catalyst for growth and development, both for the individuals who choose to emigrate and for the country they come from.
That's a really important point, but it raises another question for me.
Okay, shoot.
We've focused a lot on the economic and professional aspects of immigration,
Yeah.
but there's a human side to the story as well.
Absolutely. What about the social and cultural implications?
Exactly. We've talked about the brains, but not the people.
Right.
What about the families and communities that are affected when loved ones move abroad?
What are the emotional costs and benefits?
And what about the impact of returning immigrants on Pakistani society? How do they reintegrate?
Yeah. Do they face challenges or discrimination?
These are all important questions
Immigration is a complex phenomenon,
with far-reaching consequences.
both positive and negative.
Yeah, it really feels like we've only just scratched the surface here.
There's so much more to explore.
We talked about Aisha and her journey to Canada,
Right.
but the article mentions other interesting stories as well.
Yeah, it talks about a doctor, Dr. Khan, who returned to Pakistan after working for years in the UK.
Oh, wow.
He wanted to use his expertise to improve healthcare in his home country.
That's a really inspiring example of brain gain in action.
It is.
But I'm sure it wasn't always easy,
Yeah.
coming back after all those years.
No, the article talks about some of the challenges he faced.
Like what?
Reintegrating into Pakistani society,
Yeah.
navigating the bureaucracy, even dealing with skepticism from colleagues who had never worked abroad.
Oh, so almost like he had to prove himself all over again.
In a way, yeah.
It just goes to show, even when someone wants to come back and contribute,
Yeah,
there needs to be a more supportive environment.
absolutely. It's not enough to just welcome them back.
Right.
There needs to be a system in place to help them really utilize their skills and knowledge.
And it's not just about professional reintegration either.
Right.
There's also the social and cultural aspect to consider.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Returning immigrants might find that their perspectives have changed.
They might not fit in the same way they used to.
Yeah, they're straddling these two worlds, trying to find a sense of belonging in both.
And I imagine that can be a pretty isolating experience.
It can be. The article even quotes Dr. Khan saying, "Sometimes I feel like a stranger in my own country."
That's really sad to hear.
Yeah, it's a reminder that emigration isn't just an economic phenomenon.
Right. It has a real human impact.
It does, and it's also a reminder that this whole brain drain versus brain gain debate,
Yeah.
it's not always so clear-cut.
It's not black and white.
Right, there are shades of gray individual stories that are much more complex.
Absolutely. So I guess the question is, where does all of this leave us?
Hmm.
What are some of the key takeaways from our depth dive into Pakistani immigration?
Well, I think one of the most important takeaways is that immigration is a complex issue.
Right.
It's not something with easy solutions or simple answers.
It's multifaceted.
It is. And it's not just about economics either.
It's about people.
It's about skills opportunities and how Pakistan positions itself on the global stage.
It's about recognizing the challenges,
Yeah.
but also embracing the possibilities.
Exactly. And it's about understanding that the future isn't predetermined.
Right.
Pakistan has the potential to leverage immigration to its advantage,
Right.
but it's going to require careful planning
And strategic investment.
and a willingness to embrace new ways of thinking.
We talked about the need for better collaboration,
Yeah, between the government, the private sector, and educational institutions.
Right. And the importance of creating a more favorable environment for professionals.
For everyone, both those who have immigrated and those who are still in Pakistan.
And we touched upon the human side of immigration as well.
That emotional complexity,
Mm-hmm.
the feeling of being caught between two worlds.
Yeah, those are really important aspects that we can't overlook.
We can't. And, it's a lot to consider, but I think that's what makes these deep dives so valuable.
It gets you thinking.
It does. It sparks curiosity, it raises questions, and hopefully it encourages further exploration.
So for our listeners out there, I hope this has given you a new perspective on Pakistani immigration.
Yeah, it's not just about numbers and statistics.
It's about real people
Real lives and the choices they make.
in this increasingly globalized world.
And it's about the potential for positive change.
Yeah.
The future of Pakistan, it's not set in stone.
It's a story that's still being written.
And immigration is going to play a big role in shaping that narrative.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation.
It has.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We encourage you to keep exploring these ideas.
Yeah, engage with the complexity.
And challenge your own assumptions about immigration.
Because ultimately, the future is what we make it.
That's a great point. So what does the future hold for Pakistan and its global diaspora?
That's a question worth pondering.
It is. Thanks for listening.